All right, welcome everybody. Before getting started, I'm going to go ahead and give the rest of the participants about 1 to 2 minutes to join the session. While rating, I'm just curious, where's everyone viewing the session at? Go ahead and type it in the live stream comments so that way I can kind of see where everyone's dialing in. All right, so we got someone from New York City, Denver, Seattle. I'm out in Seattle right now too as well. So welcome to another Seattleite. Spain, that's pretty cool. Chicago, Indianapolis, Quebec, very diverse group. Can you guys see my screen okay? That says Wheels and Work. Wichita, Idaho, nice. Yes, perfect. All right, so I'm gonna give about 1 more minute to let folks join, and then we'll go ahead and get started. I'm loving a diverse crowd. Tacoma, another Washingtonian. Welcome. East Texas, Greenwood, nice. Love it. Hey, Peter, I'm Peter. All right, let's get started. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn my webcam off so that way you guys can focus on the presentation itself. At any point, if you guys have any questions, please leave it in the comments. I'm gonna be monitoring that throughout the presentation and then try to answer either throughout or at the very end. So let's get started. My name is Peter, and I've been an on and off-road lifer since 2017. This session will be about Wheels and Work, sharing our personal journey creating a mobile office for life on the road. So again, if you have any questions at all, go ahead and leave it in the comments. So my hope today is that you gain inspiration from my journey. Take what I have done and make it your own. If you gain anything from this session, it's 1, the mindset of getting out, 2, trying it, and then 3, improving, and then repeating that cycle again. So what's my story? In a very short, condensed version, September 2017 was a pivotal moment in my life. Prior to September 2017, I appeared to have it all. A great career, nice car, house, married, but that was far from it. I was living a life not on my own. And honestly, at that time, I didn't know it. And growing up, my parents would always say, go to school, get good grades, graduate, and get a good degree, get the good job. And all of that should be a winning formula for happiness. But that wasn't what I felt at that time. And on September 2017, that all came crashing down. The first thing was I was going through a divorce. Second, my dad's cancer relapse. And then third, through a company restructuring, our team got eliminated. So I began to ask myself, what's holding me back from chasing a life I knew nothing about but wanted to explore? Within a week of being laid off, I traded in my Subaru WRX for a Subaru Forester. I'll be honest, I didn't know anything about hiking, camping, how to live sustainably on the road. I was honestly scared, not because I was living in a car, but because I didn't know anything about it. But I dove headfirst into the lifestyle and learned everything along the way. And this was my life. I lived in a Subaru Forester, climbing, kayaking, taking spontaneous trips to places like Thailand to climb. Really, I was doing whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, however I wanted. The plan was no plan. However, on February 2018, I landed in the hospital, not from any lifestyle activity injuries, but I neglected my health and ignored all the signs. I was in the hospital for 5 days, 2 of which was in ICU. I had an ulcer that burst, and I bled out on the table twice and nearly died twice in there. On day 5, which was a Friday, my previous employer reached out to me, and I was afraid. 1, because of the hospital costs, but then like 2. I didn't know what to do. And so they extended a job offer and I accepted it that following Monday. About a month after the hospital, I returned back to work. Transitioning back to work was honestly really tough. One, I wasn't ready. I felt that my time away from work was prematurely cut short. I got a taste of the lifestyle that I wanted to live, but I had to rebuild my funds. So I started to modify my Subaru Forester to support the lifestyle I wanted. And as soon as I got into the motion, I received the news. On Christmas Day of 2018, my dad passed away. After my dad's funeral, I took about 2 months off of work. When I returned to work early 2019, I needed a change, another change. I needed to get my mind off of things and really subsidize that pain. So I really leaned heavily into work. And I did this in the form of doing something that I've never done before at work. And so I switched teams, switched roles completely, switched careers, and then dove headfirst into it. Somewhere in between that cycle, I started looking at W2 much differently. So I no longer cared about climbing the corporate ladder, and I cared more about what the W2 could do for me and what I could use the W2 for. And when I met my now fiance, she moved into the Forester with me for about a month, and then we quickly sold that, bought our first cargo van, traveled in that one for a year while working remotely. And when we built that out, quickly sold it within a short 3 months, and then bought our second van. And then eventually I transitioned into W2 from entrepreneurship. That's a great question. So W2 for me is like your full-time job, such as like your corporate career. So I say that because I want to distinguish it between like contract work versus like non-contract work. So that's a great question, Peter. So I know that that was a quick and dirty walkthrough of my life. There's a lot to share without going into too much depth, but I wanted to like set the stage of like where I came from, who I was, what I was before, what I was after, and what I was during, etc. And when I take a step back, there's a lot of learnings that I learn from myself, but then I also want to frame it in a framework for you guys today. So the first is, what did I learn? I learned that van life is different for everyone. My identity is not tied to work. I found my passion and happiness. And when I think about all of that, I want to frame it into a framework that consists of one, the different rigs that we not only lived in, but worked in, two, mindset, as well as tip and tricks on how we stayed connected. And so this is the framework right here. I call it my 3 pillars. The first one being mindset, followed by setup, and then connectivity. Um, yeah, you guys can, I have it turned off right now. So that way you guys can focus on it, but I'll have that thing turned back on once I start answering questions. But again, so I have it in mindset, setup, and connectivity. So you can think of this as your 3 pillars and your foundation to hold up the lifestyle that you want to do. So over the next several slides, I'll go through in each and every one of this pillar. The first one being mindset. So this isn't an all-inclusive list, but it's a good foundation to start off from. So the first one I want to touch on is level setting expectation. What do I mean by that, right? So you're in the summit right now, viewing a presentation from me with my life walkthrough. You might have already seen several clips on YouTube from other van lifers or road lifers out there, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, potentially maybe even LinkedIn, right? The thing that I want to say is that that is their lifestyle that they are portraying through their content, either as an influencer or non-influencer too as well. Think back to the mindset that I shared, which is getting out there, doing it, and then creating your own, right? And so until you start to do that, that is the expectation that you're going to level set within yourself. Redundant Wi-Fi. This is probably one of the questions I get asked a lot, which is what is the best Wi-Fi option out there? And the answer is all of them, right? So the goal is to be location independent. And in order to be location independent, you need multiple ways to stay connected. So that way, if one option goes down, you can use the other one in lieu of the one option. embracing uncertainty. Shit happens on the road. And one, the quicker that you can accept that that's going to happen, and two, move past it and accept it, that's going to be your winning formula with all of this involved. Now, I'm going to skirt around this one the best as I can, right? And this is potentially could be a gray area. What I mean by transparent lifestyle and block scheduling relates around your work itself, right? So this could play within the mental psyche. And this is something that we learn early on, mid, as well as now. And what I mean by transparent lifestyle is if you're working with a team that you're comfortable sharing your lifestyle with, you have a really great relationship with your boss, etc., and you start to share this lifestyle, it's a heavy burden that's lifted off of you because you're no longer skirting around the fact that you are traveling or living inside a rig, whether it's an SUV, unbuilt camper van, or built out camper van. When we started doing that for ourselves, we started to live the life that we wanted to live. Like before then, I can tell you that we over indexed on work because we wanted to show that we can deliver even more than what we were already delivering to make it so that way no one was questioning how we were living our lifestyle when we got to that remote position. Block scheduling. Like this again is something that you can use while on the road. It may not look the same every day, but for example, you could start your workday at 8. And again, as an example, you could stop around 11 by really communicating that with your team, saying that now that it's 11, I'm going to step away from it. I'm going to go eat lunch. I'm going to do the activity that I want to do, whether it's climbing, kayaking, etc. And around 12:30, I'll be back, and then I'll have full access to internet again. That will give you the ability to step away from the van as well as let you live the lifestyle you want to live transparently. Again, if you are comfortable with that, that is a heavy burden that is lifted off when we started doing that. Multiple workstation and separation. This is something that, again, I'll go over in the next several slides, but the thing I want to touch on now is whether you are a solo traveler, traveling with a partner, or even traveling with a family, having multiple workstation within your setting will, one, make the space feel less cramped and like not as small, but at the same time, dedicated workstation so that way it creates that separation between you, your partner, and all your family too as well as it relates to in or outside the van. So setup. This is the 3 setup that I had. I started off with a Subaru and then quickly turned that into my overland off-road rig with the hint of like a micro camper van. And then we quickly transferred into an unbuilt camper van, traveling in that unbuilt for a year while working remotely, to now what you see on the far right, which is a fully converted camper van. This is what my Forester looked like when I first hit the road. Very simple. Little bed platform inside there, and then inside the cubby, I held everything that I needed to hold in there, and then all of my life, believe it or not, fit inside that Forester at that time. So my Forester went from a very simple camper setup to what it looks like now before I sold it. And so the build was built around exploration. I wanted to go virtually anywhere that I wanted to take the Forester through, and I didn't want that rig to like really hinder where I wanted to go. So I lifted it, put bigger tires on it, full protection underneath, so that way if I hit any rocks in the National Forest Road or the back road land, that would all be well protected. I had a shower system and shower room on one of the side. I had a awning on the other side. I did the rooftop tent, which had a memory foam mattress up top, memory foam pillow, and then actual bed linens in there. So that way I could be comfortable. So this, again, at the time from 2018 to 2020 was my rig of choice and what I wanted to travel in as well as work in during like my solo travel days. System. Nothing fancy. I wanted the most simple setup possible. And so my choice was a Go Zero Yeti 400, which powered my Dometic fridge in the rear full-time 24/7, as well as powering all of my electronics. That would include my laptop, camera as well as phone. And then I had a flexible solar panel up top, um, which charged that battery when I had that solar charge. And then all I had to do is swap out one of the cables when I was driving, and it would charge via driving too as well. Work setup. Again, this was it. Scrappy. I had a camp chair, camp table, which I use on the outside of the Forester. And one of the things that was very important to me was not sacrificing productivity while on the road. So this was my first attempt to adding extra monitors in the rig. And so in the back seat, I had a little fixture that I mounted the second monitor in the back, so that way, if and when I was working in that back seat, I had access to that second monitor. But then I can also detach that and then work in the back via the table setup in the back there too as well. With any setup, there are limitations. And the limitation of this one, which is the first one, is lack of ergonomic workstation. Your back will most definitely suffer working in this camp like setting layout. The back is, like it is a little bit comfortable, but the way that I was working and how cramped I was, it wasn't an actual ergonomic situation where it was comfortable working for an extended period of time. During this time, the only internet solution that I knew of, outside of like the coffee shops, the library, etc., was cellular hotspot. And so I was constantly chasing cellular signal so that way I can stay connected to work. So earlier I touched on, like the mindset of being transparent. And so my health was actually sacrificed in regards to this one because I wasn't as comfortable sharing what I was doing, and so I over indexed on work to over deliver, so that way again no question could come back at this one. And when I met my now fiance, we just simply outgrew the space. We lived in this one for about a month, and then we quickly sold this one and then bought our first cargo van, which leads us to the next one. The build. We prioritize adventuring over building. This was a very simple build going back to our adventure days. I had a metal bed platform that was on Target risers and a queen size mattress from my mom's place. The two ottomans that you guys are seeing right there is from IKEA. I had the container totes in there too as well. I did move my Dometic fridge. The one thing we did splurge on was insulated window covers, which protected us from the element. System wise, I didn't do anything different. We took exactly what was in the Subaru Forester, moved it into the van. The one thing that we did get rid of was the flexible solar panel, so that way we can have more rigid solar panel up top. We did get a lot smarter in terms of workstation setup. And so where my fiance is sitting right now, we installed swivel seats so that way it can swivel around. That station can either be used as a single laptop or a laptop with a magnetic monitor mounted onto that, or two magnetic monitors mounted onto that. The setup that you're seeing right now is broken into two, one for her to use, and then for me, when I'm using the ottoman, I can sit there and then put my station on top of the Dometic fridge and then have a second station inside that van. On the outside, we did upgrade our table setup so that way we have a little bit more real estate to put extra monitors, food, drinks, laptops, etc. So during this phase of travel, we still encountered the same thing, which was cellular hotspot. I'm sorry, cellular signal. So we were still chasing it. The one thing that was added onto this was my fiance's cell phone, which was T-Mobile, and I was using AT&T at that time. Also, virtual meetings was also on the rise, and so that ate away at our data very quickly. And so cellular hotspot throttle was something that we were challenged with, and so we had to add in the Airbnbs, the coffee shop. We had to take a look and really be smart with our data as it relates to where we wanted to go, and then really save it so that way we can stay longer in the location that we wanted to, while mixing in all those other different options. Because we opted for adventuring over building, over time, the lack of sustainable home-like comfort definitely took a toll on us. There's not much that you can really do in like an empty cargo van. So we had no insulation, no heat, no fan. And that's essentially how it looked. It was an empty white cargo van. We did use all the little nooks and crannies to hang our clothes, our towels, etc. But it didn't really feel like home. It felt more like an adventure rig. And towards the tail end of it, we didn't know this was possible, but we started coming into travel burnout. And so we looked at traveling a little bit different towards the tail end, so that way we weren't going to be as burnt out. The last setup is a fully converted camper van. This is what it looks like. So now we have all the comforts in the world, more luxury that we can count. This is the most nice setup that we had. Insulation, heat, fan, the wood paneling. We have a hidden shower in there. We love chasing the season and all the different elements. So in the past 2 seasons, we've done now 2 different stints of a winter road trip. And this past one, I started adding in more home-like comfort. And now we run like a projector in there, so that way we can play games. We're heavy gamers as it relates to like the Nintendo Switch. So we love to duke it out playing Smash Bros. And then we also use it for watching movies. System-wise, we absolutely upgraded. So we have 340 amp hour battery with 320 watts of solar up top, and it also can be charged via solar. I do want to note, when we built this van and opted for this van, Starlink wasn't a thing, and so we added Starlink at the once it was available. And so that's going to be like a devil's advocate in terms of like challenges later on that I'll touch on. Workstation. We absolutely learned from the unbuilt van, and then got the lagoon table with the ottoman right there, so that way she can work there. Started toying with a standing desk, and so right beside her is a standing triple monitor station. We also have a way to work on the bed, and in the back, depending on what we're carrying at that time, we can use either crash pads or other means to work in the back too as well. And so again, this is most like nice setup that we have. Challenges. So power consumption. There's 2 folds to this. The first is, if you're traveling in like sunnier weather and you have really good sun like ray coming down, that's not going to be an issue at all. However, we like to travel in the winter season, and when you're running your Starlink and when you're running your laptop, heat, etc., that does drain at the battery. Never did we go below 30%, but we definitely had to keep our eyes peeled on that one, and only was able to stay at camp maybe 3-4 days max before we had to drive and then recharge the van. Health issues. So I am getting a little bit older. I can't travel the same that I used to travel in the past. And so anything beyond 5 hours worth of traveling, my back starts hurting, my leg starts hurting. And so now, working with my PT in Cairo, I have to be a little bit more smart in terms of how we travel in the future. And so this is currently being looked at, and then we're currently remapping how we want to travel in the future. Connectivity. Laundry list of ways to stay connected. I think it's great if you can, like substitute in the occasional coffee shop, library, like Airbnb to get that home-like feel if you are living this full time, or house sitting. That's a really good hack to get that home without like the cost of the Airbnb. Co-working space, also another good one too as well. But our goal again was to be location independent, and so the 2 I want to touch on is mobile hotspot and Starlink. And this is where that redundant option comes in. So now we have Starlink, and in the past we had AT&T and T-Mobile. That still remains the same. The only difference is that we have now upped our hotspot data plan to a lot more. And so for me, I have about 100 gigabytes via a business plan, and then my fiance has roughly, I want to say, around 25. And then we also have Starlink. And so primary, we push everything to Starlink if we can, so that way we save on the hotspot, so that way it has a more consistent connection for anything heavy that you need to use for like video streaming or conference call. So what's on my horizon? we're going to focus our efforts on planning our wedding this upcoming year. We definitely want to travel a little bit more. This is something that we haven't done as much because of the businesses that I'm launching, doing. I want to continue spending more time with family and friends. So in the past, I over-indexed on work. And so now I'm reconnecting with family and friends, and I want to continue that. I touched on this a little bit. And so I wear two hats now. I transitioned from the corporate world, so I no longer work in a corporate setting, into a more entrepreneurial space. And so the first company that I launched is called Basecamp Trucker Van. This is a camper van rental company. We're going on year 2. And then the first year, we only had one service, which was a camper van rental via our personal van. Going into the second season, I expanded that service to be a consultant and an advisor. So we consult for bigger box rental companies. So I utilize exactly what I learned in the corporate world, as well as running my business the first year, and then helping other companies increase whether their operational inefficiency to be more efficient, or really like top level metrics that they want to go after. And then I'm also an advisor as it relates to solo micro entrepreneurs all the way out to folks who are looking to get into the space and create their own camper van rental company. And then through that, we opened up an additional service, which is called concierge service, where we take in other people's van under our fleet and rent it in the Seattle market. Boutique experiences. This is one of the things I absolutely love about this company and enjoy. And so the folks you see on the right here are just a very small handful of the renters that you see. So I want to touch on segmentation, right? The first one is folks just like the ones in here right now who wants to learn how to work remotely, set it up, etc. So I curate experience. So for those who are looking to transition into this life while working remotely, so we extend locations that we worked at for renters, so that way they can pilot it themselves based off the internet connection that they have available. We also, again, help micro entrepreneurs start their own business. So that's one of the person in there. We extend it to festivals. So we help plan like their escape via having that home. But where my strong suit really comes in is working with first-time van lifers, as well as folks who want to purchase van in the future, and then walking through all the different like pros and cons of what they may or may not be looking at. We plan trips for family, solo travelers, as well as friend traveler. And then one of the amazing things is really extending it for anniversary trips or proposal trips. So Turbo, which is the name of one of my van, I proposed to my fiance in that, and over the last 2 years, it's just been ticking off in terms of multiple other proposals on folks who are taking on trips and stuff too as well. So that's been a really cool sight to see and witness, as well as be part of. The last 2 is brokerage. So I work with camper van conversion companies to do a try before you buy type program, and then I do a lot of partnerships and events. This is new. Unrestrained living. This is a tiny home business. The thing that makes this special is that there's a lot of passionate folks coming into this, as well as folks who know this industry a little bit deeper too as well. So we have an architect on site that has designed tiny homes in the past. What makes this person special is that they know how to work with permitting city zoning in the Portland area, and then the greater Portland area and other states too as well, to make sure that it's being built not only the code, but also built with the customer requirement. The second team that is compressed into this too as well is a separate contract and construction company that is now part of this company. In the past, they used to build a lot of tiny homes and ADUs too as well. We do consultations as well as build and sell, and this is just some of the examples that we have. So building tiny home on wheels and selling it, or building it to spec and selling it to clients. In the center, in the Portland area market, cottage cluster is something that is becoming a little bit more prevalent. On the right-hand side here is one of our properties. So we do house as well as land hacking, and we're converting one of the detached garage either to a ADU and or a pad to park a tiny home. I'll leave this on here for about 30 seconds to a minute. Go ahead and take a screenshot or use your phone to take a picture. The first one, Wandering Turbo, is my personal handle on Instagram. The second one, Basecamp Trucker Van, is my business. If at any point you want to just randomly see who I am professionally, that's my LinkedIn handle too as well. If you want to reach out to me to talk about tiny homes, vans, renting, anything as it relates to this space, or you have deeper questions on like what I specifically did for the SUV, unbuilt camper van, or built out camper van to make like the two work together for work from home as well as living life on the road, you're absolutely more than welcome to shoot me email or use the link below there to schedule some time with me, the chat. Shameless plug. I'm not going to talk too much about this. Similar to the last one, if you or anyone that you know that's in the market that's interested in a van, feel free to take a screenshot of this one and reach out to me again, and we can talk a little bit more in depth with this camper van. And then we have one more that's available, which is a sit for, sleep for, 4x2 Sprinter 144. Again, not going to go into too much depth in terms of this, so go ahead and take a screenshot and then reach out to me separately, and we can talk more about the two vans that we have available if you are in the market or know somebody. With that, that concludes my presentation. And so I'm going to turn my camera back on so that way you guys can see me. I'll stay on for the next several minutes and then look at the comment section. So if you guys have any comments or questions, go ahead and fire it off, and then I'll start to answer them. Yeah, I like it. I like that you were pumped. House sitting is a good one. Definitely don't sleep on that. Thank you, Claudia. Can I talk more about setting up multi-monitors and laptop? Yes, I can. So when it relates to that, the option that we went with, it's called an expressal display. It's a magnetic monitor, and it links to the back side right here, and then also has a separate stand in there too as well, so that way you can fix it into the desktop. But I would definitely take a look at Espresso Monitor. It's one of the better monitors that I've played around with in terms of like portability, as well as being able to set up in this way or function. Unrestrained living. We don't have a link yet. But Miami Sammy, if you want to shoot me an email, we can definitely talk more about that too as well. It's a newer company. Sean, so that is a great question in terms of that. So I was a senior program manager myself. I led global operations for Europe, Asia, North America, as well as emerging regions. And that was something that I was personally challenged with myself. And for me, the way that I was able to get that rolling with like really my leadership was I was honestly online from like 5:30 in the morning till 8 at night. And so being connected to the office wasn't something that wasn't an issue. It really, the bigger issue is not being connected. And so it was showing them that I can still deliver on what I needed to do. I just needed to shift my schedule so that way I am more refreshed as it relates to being able to deliver more for work or the same. So hopefully that does help a little bit. If you wanted to talk more about like other tips and tricks about what I've done and like the exact word I use for leadership, again, feel free to like reach out to me directly via LinkedIn and or email, and we can talk about that. Awesome. Thank you, Shell. Jill, I have not had any problems renting my vans. We've had a lot of great success here. I started off in Portland, and then we transitioned the company up in Seattle. That's a lot of learning that I've had on renting the camper van. I can tell you that occupancy wise, we've seen a lot of high occupancy in terms of renting. And then we've also had a lot of great renters too as well. So I add in a little bit more in terms of like van orientation, etc., to make it more personable. And one of the things I love seeing is really pictures and stuff like that too as well. If that is something that you're like interested in learning a little bit more about, Jill, again, I welcome you to like schedule some time with me or reach out to me. Thank you, Sean, for adding me on LinkedIn. Any other questions? Welcome, Jill. All right. If there's no other questions, oh, is the lagoon table adjustable in height? Yes, it is. So you have that ability to adjust it in height, and then you can swivel it around too as well. So there's a lot of options for that. How long did it take me to build out the current rig? So I didn't build it out fully by myself. So I worked with other contractors and pro builders. The first van that was unbuilt, I did the majority of the outside by myself, and that took probably in total 2 weekends, with all the parts coming in, working on it like 1-2 hours at a time. I did do some of the installation as well as other things inside there, but when it got down to the cabinets and everything else, that's when I turned it over to the pro builders to do. And the unbuilt camper van looked like that. And so that is actually our unbuilt camper van that is completely built out. The other one, we just work with another builder, and they have like a very, very quick turnaround. Is your experience with Starlink is a staple in Wild and City? That's a great question, Candice. And so, it so far what I found is that if I'm like say in the city of Seattle, and I have it deployed, the building obstruction, depending on where I'm at, is a little bit more challenging. That's where Starlink is not as usable inside that city setting as it relates to like the little like higher like towers and stuff. Unless you're in like an area that's a little bit more open, that's where Starlink will be usable. And so like where I actually deploy Starlink is Seattle bouldering projects out here in Seattle, as it relates to the city. And then for Portland, it's a little bit easier, as well as like Happy Valley. But honestly, inside the city, that's where I use my AT&T hotspot, or I take advantage of coffee shops. Great question with the hotspot. I found more success with AT&T if you are going out into like more wild areas. T-Mobile is a little bit more reliable if you're like in the city. And so again, both of those have like different use cases as you use it. T-Mobile, what we found like going into like those more rural areas, is that it's not as usable in relation to AT&T. Does travel day get in the way of time commitment for work? Well, unforeseen events like Miami, that is a great question. So this is where we started experiencing travel burnout. So I would still support the full workday for my role as a senior program manager. We would see the area that we would see, like quote unquote, after work, and then during the night, it wasn't uncommon for us to start driving to the next location around 9 p.m. and then stopping somewhere around 1 a.m. to rest, and then starting and finishing the drive too as well. So it depends on where we were going, but we would use off work time to travel to the next one, which burnt us out via traveling. Thank you. Nice to get that info from local since I'll be around mostly. Definitely, Candice. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. How do you insulate from noise cancellation? My meetings have to be in complete silence. That's a great question. So we invested in good noise cancellation headphones, as well as like better microphone too, to be more like with your voice. And so my fiance used Sony, and then I use Bose, and then there's another one. I'm forgetting the brand of it, but we like investing in like really good noise cancellation headphones, but like headphones that also have like really good microphones too as well is one. And then you can also go into your settings to increase like the noise cancellation side for your mic, as well as the other side too as well. So like there's two sides to play with that. Hopefully that answers that question. Any other questions? Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. For those who are still here, I'll go ahead and leave this here. So that way, if you haven't already, you can go ahead and take a screenshot of this. I can, again, be available in any of these platforms to reach out to me. And then that link tree right there is a really good one to schedule a time with me if you wanted to get more of like a personal one-on-one too as well. So thank you again, guys. Wait, any recommendation on chairs / comfort for working long hours? That, Candace, is a great question. So I've found that the passenger as well as the driver seat inside of the van itself is really comfortable. It might not be a bad idea for you to like pop inside, like let's say REI, and sit on like a number of different chairs with like your table too as well. That's been honestly like my personal favorite doing it. Even renting it out to clients, I've found that different people have different preferences, and so like to know for sure, definitely go in there and then play around with it for an outdoor setting. And then for an indoor, I do like to use like the either the driver or passenger or even the ottoman. Awesome. Thank you again, guys. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you, guys.